Tensions are mounting in Eastern Europe. We've been reporting this for weeks now. Russia has now positioned more than 130,000 troops around Ukraine. The U.S. continues to warn that an invasion could be imminent. The U.S. State Department ordering an evacuation of the American embassy in Kiev. Former U.S. Air Force Assistant Vice Chief of Staff, retired Lieutenant General Richard Newton, joining me now. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Adrienne.
This is so strange in one sense as a layman, as a person who's just watching this play out. Vladimir Putin telling Biden again that he has no plans to invade. That was just this weekend. In all of your years of service and your military instincts, what do you think? What's your gut telling you? Will Russia invade?
Well, my gut tells me first that, and my brain tells me also, is that Putin only understands power. And he's positioned Russian forces, as you mentioned, 130,000 around the Ukrainian border. I believe he is positioned to attack, and I believe he holds all the cards here because he is in a position of strength, both on the ground and also to some degree diplomatically because of his efforts to, suppress, again, from the economic and the energy standpoint of where NATO and Europe are right now in this case. So there are some significant indications here that he will attack. My gut tells me that again, he's positioned to do that, and he may just very well do that. But my brain tells me that he won't. Again, I believe that he understands the calculation because of the challenges. If he did attack, it would be at first a bloody mess, Adrienne. And then also there are some economic consequences that if he did do that in his own country of Russia. So, but it's like you said at the top of the call. It's a very cat and mouse situation, both diplomatically, but militarily, he's in a very strong position right now. And so it's very dicey. It's cut to a bottom line here on your question is I've never seen such a crisis on the European continent really since the middle of the Cold War era back in the 60s.
Well, that puts
so
things
it is
in
significant.
Context. Yeah, that puts things in context. Obviously, the U.S. is not taking Putin at his word that he will not invade. In fact, President Biden in a phone call said that the U.S. is prepared to respond, quote, swiftly and decisively. Why is the U.S. so heavily invested in protecting Ukraine? Is it because of NATO? Is it because of the economic impact?
I think there's also historical precedents and ramifications here too. U.S. has always led the NATO effort, after World War II and certainly through the Cold War leading up to today. So we're going to stand behind our NATO partners, by the way, who are going to also stand behind Ukraine, a neighboring, nation that has been leaning for the last several years towards NATO. But let's put it into a historical context. Ukraine used to be under the domain of the Soviet Union, and Putin is really trying to also go back to the old days of Russia and the Soviet Union. And one of those things is to take his satellites and bring them back into some semblance of control within what he would probably call a new Russia. Also, remember, there is precedence here that really makes Europeans nervous, as well as the United States, is the fact that Putin did attack and took over Crimea in 2014. So his efforts to, put troops around the border to attack and so forth and actually annex, territory like he did with Crimea in 2014 is not unprecedented. It's important for the U.S. to act here, not only in terms of our efforts to, again, through the decades to lead, the NATO forces and so forth, but also us on the world stage in terms of other adversaries we have, China and Taiwan. It could be Iran and other areas. So this is a very important moment for us. And a very important moment for our global leadership and our leadership on the European continent.
Right. A reputation at stake right now with President Biden facing perhaps the biggest challenge globally of his administration. What would a diplomatic solution look like?
Well, we're trying to carve that out right now. You mentioned that Chancellor Scholz is on his way to visit with the Ukrainian president. We've had President Biden obviously had a very lengthy and I think hopefully at least an engaging conversation with Putin on Saturday, and then he had a call with the Ukrainian president as well. You're going to see lots of diplomatic efforts to try to come up with a diplomatic solution. But what backs up President Biden is also we have strength in our military capabilities as well. And those capabilities could, again, we have sent 6,000 troops from the 82nd Airborne. They're stationed in Poland. By the way, The commander of the 82nd Airborne is Major General Christopher Donahue, who actually was the last man out, if you recall, in that epic photo in Afghanistan on that withdrawal we conducted. But nonetheless, we have also 80,000 troops in Europe. And so we are positioned to continue to lead and back with strong military forces. But we do not want to get into any type of conflict with Putin and Russia in Europe. That would, again, lead to a bloody mess, not only for Russia, but for Ukraine, and potentially if NATO partners are drawn in. And so that's one thing we're trying to do. We're trying to deter his aggression. We're trying to dissuade him from acting. And then thirdly, should that those fail, then we will provide arms and we'll provide, a modicum of elements that we have in Europe to, defeat any type of, again, aggression that he would spill over, certainly outside of Ukraine. It's got everybody very, very nervous. It's a crisis. It's a critical time in both not only what's happening in Europe, but also in terms of U.S. global leadership.
Well, it certainly is a strong statement that Biden has set forth so far, but maybe perhaps needing to be a little stronger. Retired Lieutenant General Richard Newton, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Adrienne.
Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to click on the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.